Hey everybody, welcome to Flag Beach. And today the wind's a bit lighter, so now I'm going to talk to you about the G Pro 76 liter. The G Pro 76 liter is the smaller brother of the 96 liter, which is my main sort of light wind, wingfoil racing, stand-up paddle, para winging board. So the 76 is for those days where the conditions are really rocking. So let's have a seat and talk about it. So the G Pro 76 is 5'2" long and 20 inches wide at the widest point. The widest point is pretty much exactly where your front foot will be. Why is that important? By keeping the maximum volume right under your front foot, it makes the board very, very stable on the water, even though it's still quite short. This makes it easy, especially when you're not so powered and displacing. Although with this small board, that's typically not going to be a massive problem unless you're in gusty conditions. And let's face it, you can't all be so lucky to live on Fuerteventura where it's mostly windy. So having a board that's a bit more forgiving, even though it's small, is definitely a bonus. The volume distribution, just like on its bigger brother, is very, very balanced. You have this volume hump on the back that places a bit more volume or gives the board a bit more volume in the back. You've got the maximum volume here in the middle, and you still have a slight beluga nose in the front. Again, this is all down for forgiveness, especially when you're jumping and you're not landing so clean. This board was primarily designed for waves in mind. So if we talk about wing foiling, it's the ultimate board for carving. With only 20 inches of width and like a very sort of teardrop outline where the tail comes together quite narrow, it's amazing when you carve. There is almost no way of hanging up the board. To further reinforce the board not hanging up, we have a bevel basically from the tip of the nose all the way to your front feet. This is typically the area as you're carving hard into a wave where your nose would hang up. This board doesn't need a bevel going all the way to the tail because it has a very narrow tail. But to keep the volume there, that's why we have that hump, so it balances that out. So you never have to worry about the board hanging up on you on tight carves. There's enough width in the tail to help you get onto the foil. It's got sharp rails, essentially from behind your front feet all the way up to the tail, the rails are sharp. That's to give the board good release, but also to help the board track. Especially when para-winging with this board. The conditions I mainly para-wing in are usually quite choppy. There's usually some swell interference coming from the side. So I need a board that doesn't want to slip sideways all too much, especially with the para-wing, which still has quite a lot of pull towards the rails. So by keeping the rails sharp, the board will always sort of track straight rather than pivoting or sliding sideways. The hull is flat up until you get to the nose, and at the nose you get a very sort of lightly pronounced V. That V helps split the water as you're displacing, and as you're accelerating, it helps lift the board off the water. It's also great if you touch down. It sort of splits the water, which reduces sort of that impact of the touchdown and helps the board spring up back onto the foil. Let's talk a bit about the design. I really like racing, and I really like that American NASCAR aesthetic. So for the new G Pro boards, we've gone for exactly that. We've gone for that old school retro numbering system and sort of clean shaded lines along the rails. I really like the way it looks. I find it looks simple but elegant and sleek. As with all other Indiana boards, we have the croc skin pad. I really like it because it's a nice balance between grip and being able to move your feet around. For 2026, we've got some new V-straps. These are even more lightweight and more comfortable than our previous ones, and I think you guys will really like the new feel. The new G Pro boards come with 32 centimeter Leotech tracks. However, what you can't see on this, because this is still a prototype, the boards will also be compatible with the new bone T-nut system. That means there will be extra holes here, 16.5 centimeters in front of the back holes, which means you can just use those bone T-nuts and drop in the mast. It saves a lot of time and it's an awesome system. The handle is a very sort of low drag, low key handle. There's not a lot of cavity inside the board and a very sort of straight cutoff here. This allows the board to plane a bit faster as the water has nowhere to go inside the board and it sort of will just rush past, which will reduce drag. So if you're looking for a board that has a lot of range and use cases, high wind wing foiling, para winging, surf foiling, kite foiling in very light wind, this board can do it all. If you're like me and you do a bit of surf foiling sometimes, the board is a perfect shape. That 20-inch width is actually more than slim enough to get your arms around it when you're paddling without getting sort of your arms caught. It's a very comfortable board to paddle. It's very fast to paddle and it's very easy to catch waves. And because it's not overly long, being 5'2", it still carves brilliantly and pumps brilliantly if you like pumping back out to the back sets. So that's the G Pro 76 liter. If you have any questions or want more information or even want to order it right now, just head to the Indiana website and check it out. If you have any other questions, I'm also happy to answer any of them. So just drop me a DM on my Instagram and I'm happy to talk about my two boards in depth with you guys. So see you guys on the water. Rock on.